Good morning. This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with a wrestling news update for you. Current WWE US champion Logan Paul told Fox Business he has retired from boxing and will be focusing on his professional wrestling career. He says there's no more money in boxing. Companies are going out of business. He expects to appear in WWE now more that he is US champion. He's been wrestling for 19 months now. Of course, wrestling is a lot easier mentally on a person than boxing. You don't have that pressure on winning. And of course, while you have to be in shape, you obviously don't have to continuously train, put hours and hours of training in every day. You just have to look physically good and have decent cardio because it's not like you're in a competitive fight. Karrion Kross was apparently supposed to get a big push after SummerSlam, but instead, he's pretty much fallen out of sight in recent months. Michael Cole dissed AEW last night while talking about Cody Rhodes' history in the Capital One Center in Washington. He said, quote, Cody wrestled his first match back on SmackDown in the Capital One Arena. He did some other stuff in this building as well, end quote. Apparently, that other stuff was the premiere of AEW Dynamite. Of course, Rhodes, who was not exact, he was a babyface in AEW, but towards the end of his AEW tenure, the fans were not liking him. I remember one of the few AEW Dynamite episodes I watched in full, which was about 2 years ago now. He had a weightlifting belt on, and he threw it into the crowd, and the crowd threw it back. So he definitely made a good decision jumping to WWE. Wrestling is definitely better when wrestlers can jump between companies. It always makes it interesting for the fans. Jade Cargill is another one that has jumped from AEW to WWE. For whatever reason, though, they were giving her a lot of buzz, having her appear with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Charlotte Flair, etc. And then they kind of just stopped doing that, which you would think they'd want to have her in a match or some type of angle soon, because the longer it is since she's been on AEW television, uh, the harder it's going to be to get her over. And I mean, they can get anyone over, but I mean, it's obviously going to be hotter if it's closer to the time that she was off AEW television. The Rock appeared on The Tonight Show last night with Jimmy Fallon. Eddie Guerrero's death anniversary was yesterday. I was listening to the Wrestling Observer radio, and Dave Meltzer said, interestingly enough, his biggest kind of international showing at first was that When Worlds Collide pay-per-view that was a Mexican wrestling pay-per-view, Lucha Libre, done in association with WCW in the early 90s. However, despite having the most memorable showing on that card, it was Louis Spicolli that was hired by the major company after that. Of course, he was Rad Radford. WCW did eventually hire Eddie Guerrero, where he had a good run in WCW despite fighting personal demons. He then went to WWE after leaving WCW due to Kevin Sullivan becoming Booker. I don't know what his issue with Sullivan was, considering Guerrero was always used well in WCW, and I've never heard Sullivan say a bad word about Eddie Guerrero. But anyways, he ended up going to WWE, where Meltzer brings up a lot of situations got him fairly over with the company, including that Mamacita angle with China, who was really hot at the time. However, his personal demons got to him again in WWE, where he had an incident right after getting out of rehab. Then he went on the indies and basically became really popular on the indies, got rehired by WWE, and was made champion. However, he was one of the lowest drawing champions of all time, which, according to Meltzer, really affected him mentally because he was from an era that when you were champion, you had to be the draw, and if you weren't a draw, it was considered unsuccessful. So that really affected him mentally. Of course, they took the title off of him, and he ended up passing away at only 38 years old. I did recently interview Eddie's brother Hector on this channel, who was also known as the Gobbledygooker. I suggest people search that one up. According to reports, Raw was not a great show last night, and the main events and finishes got the biggest pops, while the heat of the matches didn't get much reaction. Dynamite is in the Young Bucks home area this week, but there's only 4,000 tickets out, including comps. It's an 11,000 seat building that was sold out when they went there for Dynamite in 2022. Director of Raw and SmackDown, Executive Director Bruce Pritchard, recently posted a picture of a gold watch on social media and then removed it. This led to speculation that since he is very close with Vince McMahon, he might be losing his position now that TKO has taken over. But Bruce denies that and says he's just a big fan of watches. One point, he was head of creative for WWE, which, of course, Triple H is head of creative now. Liv Morgan, who's been out of action for a while with an injury, is being evaluated to see when she could return to the ring. Ivan Santos says Drew McDonald has turned heel. I think Drew McIntyre is one of the most he has a good body, but to me, he's just flat. I mean, nobody kayfabe, so I don't blame him for not kayfabing and talking about stories and stuff all the time whenever he's interviewed by the media. But to me, he's always been boring. Memorabilia says, greetings from Puerto Rico, somewhere where I spent a lot of time between 2005, 2008, wrestling for IWA and WWC. I really miss, actually, Puerto Rico. Hope to go back there again someday. I agree with this comment that Joe Holster says, and I know I'm mispronouncing your last name. Sorry about that. Eddie became a bigger star after he died. I agree. One thing I will give both Eddie Guerrero and Cody Rhodes, though, is when they were not in WWE, they both had really hot indie runs. And I think they really earned their pushes when they came back, where there's a lot of guys that, for instance, Triple H has brought a lot of people back to WWE that did nothing in the time that they weren't signed. And 99% of those people, such as Top Dollar, for instance, who did nothing when they weren't signed after their releases and then got brought back just because Triple H likes them or whatever. I think Top Dollar's been fired again. I mean, I don't like it when they bring people back that have made no effort to get over and don't deserve to be re-signed. Another one is Tenali Dashwood. Like, she did nothing during the point, or Emma. I mean, she's been fired again, I believe. I mean, I don't like it when there's so many indie wrestlers that work their butt off on the independent scene and never get a chance, and WWE re-signs them when they don't do nothing in their off time. Where, as I will say, Eddie Guerrero and Cody Rhodes were both really over and had big buzzes on their names when they went on the indie scene. And that's what I think people should have to do to get other opportunities. And both of those guys did get great opportunities after that. And even though Eddie Guerrero May not have been the biggest drawing champion ever. He certainly had a memorable run. Why do I think Edge is not moving the needle in AEW? Well, he never moved the needle in WWE when he came back either. He's a good talent, but he's not a needle mover. I mean, you guys can look at the reports. I'm a reporter. I reported on it. He did not move the needle in WWE. But he's a good talent, and I think a great acquisition for AEW. Very positive person. Again, why they don't take Goldberg? He is a needle mover. Why are they not using Goldberg? Rampage and Collision are dying. NXT is getting better ratings than Rampage and Collision. The developmental show. Why do you not use Goldberg? Why has Ric Flair only made one appearance since debuting for AEW? I don't know. It seems like they don't even care about Rampage and Collision. Do I believe Dolph Ziggler will re-sign with WWE or go to AEW or Impact? I believe he will go to AEW. His brother's there, and he'll get a good opportunity there. Impact doesn't pay crap, and I understand even though Dolph Ziggler wasn't used well in WWE, he had a very large contract of around $1 million a year. So the pocket change that Impact pays just wouldn't be enough for him.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to